What's up guys, today I want to go over the Chem launcher skill that we have here in the Division 2. This is a fun skill that has a couple of different uses and some things that you should probably stay away from. I'm going over all the skills in this game in different videos, so be sure to check those out and subscribe if that's interesting to you. Now I want to say that this is an overview of the skills and not how they operate in the endgame builds, so keep that in mind. Anyway, so the Chem launcher, I kind of got a poor taste in my mouth for right off the bat, and that's because I unlocked the Riot Foam variant because it's one that seems interesting to me. However, I do not personally like this version of the skill. It's supposed to stick to an enemy and keep them in place for a duration of 3 seconds, and it allows you to deal damage to them or slow down a rusher, and there are a few times where I found that to be useful. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a useless skill, but definitely not the best. I found the aiming system to be a little hard to do in super fast movements, and times where I saw an opportunity right now. At least on console, that's how I feel about it, so I don't know how this varies on PC. And I felt the radius that it had was kind of lacking, especially for groups, and it was really just good on one specific enemy most of the time. So in my opinion, this is the lowest ranking of the 4 variants, but it does have some usages. Next up we have the Fire Starter, which is a fairly useful version of the launcher. It explodes and causes fire damage to enemies in a 2.5 meter radius, so long as you've ignited the cloud with an ability or your bullets. Now it does blast damage and fire damage over time. It's also worth noting that an enemy can set it off with their own bullets, which actually happens quite a bit. This is good for a couple of different situations, but namely for starting an engagement where a lot of enemies are all bunched up because it will be applying the fire to all of them. Or in a situation where you have one enemy that is a nuisance and needs to be in one position for an amount of time, or you need to set off a weak point that can be detonated by fire, like heavy enemies or grenade packs. Moving on, we have the Oxidizer variant, which is very similar to the Fire Starter version. This one shoots a cloud of purple stuff that damages enemies in the radius of it. Now if they stand in it long enough, it does seem to follow them out of the circle and do damage over time. Now the perk says that it does damage to enemy armor, but unless it's just like some bonus damage to armor, then I'm not really sure what it's talking about, because it does seem to kill them just fine from the way I've used it. Now this one does pretty much all the same things that the Fire Starter does, except that it does not detonate weak points or stun an enemy in place. Even still, it has a larger radius than the Fire Starter does, and it seems to do quite a bit more damage. And for that reason, I'm pretty torn about which one I think is better, and I'm curious to know what you guys think, so be sure to let me know down in the comment section. Lastly, we have the Reinforcer. This is the healing variant of the launcher and is one of the best healing abilities in the game, that I've used so far at least. It's hard for me to say if it's better than the drone because they both have their uses, or if it's better than the Seeker Mine because that's only available with certain specializations. But I do feel like this one is probably the best for single target healing that I have come across. Now this does only affect armor, so it won't be doing anything to health, but let's be real here, you don't really depend on your health too much in the Division, you're mostly depending on your armor. And regardless of the actual numbers of what it heals and what it doesn't, I would say that this is one of the more useful healers because of the way it can be used. You just set it off to do its thing and not worry about it too much, and it's pretty useful for self-healing as well. Now honestly, you can argue that the drone is just as good, and you wouldn't be wrong, so I think it probably just has more viability in PvP because it can't be destroyed, which is a major problem with the drone. I just don't find my drone getting destroyed that much in regular PvE content. So, that's all I have for you guys today. This Chem launcher is great for a variety of situations and will be good in a whole lot of builds, and I'm really excited to see what we can come up with it. So, leave me a comment underneath about how you feel about the Chem launcher. Like this video, it really does help me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel for future Division content, and with that guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.